So he said, Marcus Aurelius, you're going home. And again, when you have a near-death experience or you become aware of multiple dimensional realities all at once, all these things are happening simultaneously. So as he's talking to me, telling me that I'm going home, there are 7 angels about 14 feet tall each. They are female in appearance. And I've always said for years, it's like the city of the clouds and The Empire Strikes Back. And there was like a table, a hologram, energetic. And anytime that I was angry, resentful, or blamed other people, and that's all that we ever do when we're teenagers. In fact, that's many adults still do that. They asked me, how does that relate to love? And everything in life is an opportunity to express love.
My guest today is Mark Patterson, who had not only an amazing near-death experience, but also a very unusual walk-in. And I'm super excited to dive down deep and ask him lots of questions. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Well, I understand from hearing about your story a little bit that you were actually born intuitive. You already had some gifts before you had your near death experience. So, can you share a little bit about what your life was like with those before you had your near death experience?
Yeah, sure. So as a child, I always knew things about people, things I probably shouldn't have known.
Mm.
I always saw lights and auras. I had countless encounters with ETs and angels. And of course, when you talk about those things, you're ridiculed, you're shunned, you're told, don't talk about that. Why do you know that? We don't ever want to hear that again. And so you learn to shut it off. I mean, you don't, I mean, it's like, why am I seeing all these lights around people? Why do I understand? Why do I see, Aunt Betty around mom, or, whatever it may be? And, then the encounters with the UFO. I cannot tell you how many nights on Friendship Street in Iowa City, Iowa, you'd go out 9, 10 o'clock at night and they'd be flying over the house, and you try to get your mom, and she'd be like, what? I don't see anything. And it's because you're literally on a different dimensional reality. You're literally perceiving things of higher dimensional consciousness that other people just can't see. They talk about this when the Pilgrims came to America, and they were there, but the Native Americans couldn't see them because they were operating on different levels of reality. A different dimensional things like that. That's true.
Oh, I totally believe that because I do understand a lot about dimensions and how they work. That's really interesting. Plus, not only that, you're from Iowa. I'm from Iowa, not a super progressive area. And so, did you have
Not
people who believed in you, believed anything?
Yeah, I my best friend Toby, um, his mom Patty Lou, she was the only one who really believed in me, believed that they were real. And I mean, she introduced me to so many things when I was like 16, 17, 18. So she was, but everyone else was, I was crazy. My dad was a holy roller, Southern Baptist, had the Bible memorized. According to him, I was always possessed by the devil. And I would just go, whatever, dad, but this is what I'm experiencing. And unfortunately, by the time I was 12, 13, 14, I was turning to alcohol, drugs, just so I
Numb
wouldn't
it.
numb it out, wouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did you said that you had some encounters with angels? Can you share any of that with us?
Yeah, sure. So when I was in kindergarten, we had this thing with the solar eclipse, and they give you those really dumb like things that you're supposed to look at. And I was like, this is crap. You're supposed to look directly into it. This is what the Mayans teach. This is what the Aztec teach. The Native Americans taught this. It's okay to look directly into the sun. And I was like looking at this thing, oh, this is crap. And so I threw it to the ground, and I looked up, and I was aware of several beings around me, angels, including Mary. So, but there were always voices. in the middle of the night that would talk to me as angels. But I've told the story many, many times that when I was growing up in Iowa, that I would dream over and over again that everything I wanted, Disneyland. I didn't go to Disneyland until I was like 37 or 38, but Disneyland, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, feeling love, feeling, that all those things, feeling like you belong, that you mattered, were inside the bedroom closet. And I'd keep finding myself inside my bedroom closet in my dreams, because that's where I felt love. That's where I felt wanted. That's where I felt like I belonged. 40 some years later, you realize the dream was about everything that you want is already within your heart. It's already contained within you. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so you're numbing yourself, which kind of is a perfect segue into what happened for your near-death experience.
Yeah, so I took it a step further, not intentionally, I don't think, or I don't know, maybe I did. I don't think that was. I think I was just trying to impress all my older classmates. What? I'm going to be a man. Let me show you what I can do. So yeah, I was at a high school party. This would have been 1980, February of '86, and Canterbury Inn. It's still there in Coralville, Iowa. So I chugged a fifth of vodka, 4 beers, 2 glasses of wine, and 3 or 4 wine coolers in about 90 minutes. So I went into cardiac arrest. I mean, my skin was purple, green, and black. My body was unconscious. And of course, anyone who's had a near-death experience, and they tell you that as soon as you leave the body, that's initially is scary, because you realize your body's down there, you're somewhere else, and you're trying to get your classmates' attention who just, an hour ago were going chug, 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 chug. And, then my grandfather, Russell, who passed away when I was 2 or 3, and I still just have glimmers of him, not a lot. And he said, I only know this because this is what I've been told about him. He always called me Marcus Aurelius. And so, because that was the famous show, back in the 70s. And so he said, Marcus Aurelius, you're going home. And again, when you have a near-death experience, or you become aware of multiple dimensional realities all at once, all these things are happening simultaneously. So as he's talking to me, telling me that I'm going home, there are 7 angels about 14 feet tall each. They are female in appearance. And I've always said for years, it's like the city of the clouds and The Empire Strikes Back. And there was a hologram of my life, like a table, a hologram, energetic. And anytime that I was angry, resentful, or blamed other people, and that's all that we ever do when we're teenagers. In fact, that's many adults still do that. They asked me, how does that relate to love? And everything in life is an opportunity to express love. And so if you are forgiving, meaning you are for giving your love away, no matter what happens to you, or if you're always out getting things, you are for getting things, the cars, the houses, whatever it may be, you are for getting who you really are. And so then they introduced me to a being that was probably about 30 or 40 feet tall. The Bible references to them as the giants. And there's all these uncoveries all over the world, especially in Morocco, in Africa, in other parts of the world, of these giant skeletons. And they talked to me a lot about sacred geometry, sound, healing through sound, and the Melchizedek priesthood. And then that this 30, 40 foot being, also there, I've been to Egypt a few times, over in Abu Simbel, the giants, and that it was a masculine appearance, formed an icosahedron, which is a Platonic solid, came into my heart and brought Mark back to life. So for about 3 days or so, 3 or 4 days, everyone seemed like this big to me. Everyone was tiny to me. I was trying to figure out where I was, what was going on. especially my mom. My mom looked like, I mean, my mom was like 4'11" on a good day, but she was like, like she was like really small. And then by the fourth or fifth day, all the memories came back that I was Mark. I was a sophomore in high school at West High in Iowa City, Iowa. I knew who my friends were. I knew everything, that was Mark. So, and then also, the soul that was in my body from conception to 16 took off with Russell, or ascended, or what, however you want to describe it. And this is all like simultaneously, because all dimensional realities are just superimposed on top of each other. Everything is here and now. That's very true.
Wow. So you come back almost with an amnesia, slowly start to remember your life. Do you remember the new? So I don't know how to even to refer this. Like, so it's the old Mark, and then you've got the new Mark because you have this walk-in that's come in. Do you remember what you were doing before you decided to incarnate into this body and take over where Mark left off at the age of 16?
Uh, Kind of. I mean, I have vague memories of this being coming down through time and space. And the thing that I remember the most are moving like these really large stones and putting them in a specific pattern to open up doorways to come back down through time and space to be here on Earth. That's what I remember. But it's just like, again, it's glimmers, you know. Yeah.
So do you have any idea, have you learned over time why the switch? Was it something you planned, the two of you, before his birth?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is it was Mark and this being agreed to this beforehand. Another way to look at it is there's a book called Hands of Light by Barbara Ann Brennan.
Okay.
And on page 262, she writes that future lifetimes can be placed in the auric field at the time of birth and can be taken on at the completion of a lifetime. So in one sense, there was this walk-in thing that happened. Another sense, I basically reincarnated into the same body with another aspect of myself.
That makes sense. Like because we have a higher self, like
Right,
a more evolved version that doesn't always incarnate here.
right.
So did you also retain the attributes that Mark had before, like the ability to hear spirits and connect and all of that?
Yeah, when there's a walk-in, you agree to their life plan. You agree to who they are. You agree to their life plan, their karma, their dharma. Yeah.
Were you shown in that life review what your soul's purpose was?
Yeah, it relates to sound and geometry, which is what I've spoken at conferences all over from 97 to 2017.
Well, I want to get into that a lot deeper, but before we move off, I want to talk a little bit more about life review. I think I've been really fascinated. I've watched and listened and read over 1,000 near-death experiences. The ones that always speak to me the most are the ones about the life review, because it really speaks to the ripple effect that we have. So yours is a little bit different, but not completely, because I've also heard this before, that you were shown that the most important thing were the things that you did in love. So can you expand on that a little bit deeper about your thoughts about that? Because you've had a lot of time to reflect on this, and how it actually changed for you when you came back moving forward with the way you did things.
Well, yeah, there's a Zen saying that says we teach best what we most need to learn.
Mm.
And so love, not romantic love, not sexual love, but just the ability to love people where they're at and where they are at and where they are not is, that's why we're here. We're here to express love. It's like I've talked about this for years. Why do bad things happen to good people? It's because you wanted to forgive someone, or they wanted to forgive you, or your soul said that this time, this lifetime, I'm going to show the power of love and what it can do. Now, the best example of this, of course, Christianity talked about this when Jesus was placed on the cross. It was an act of, he loved the world so much that he allowed himself to go through the crucifixion and the resurrection. But the most modern example of that is the lady Immaculée in Rwanda in the 90s during the Congo civil wars, where she found herself in a bathroom with 7 other people for 91 days while the civil war was going on in Rwanda, the Congo, and they basically killed all of her family. And they killed everyone. And so she had to survive in a bathroom, in a bathtub for 91 days. And when all kind of the dust settled, she's been on Oprah. If you listen to the story, it's deeply moving. So she was, after 91 days, when the dust settled, she was given the opportunity. They gave her a machete, a baseball bat, and they found the guy who was the main perpetrator of killing all of her family. They were like, go at it, whack this dude as hard as you want, as many times as you want. And she couldn't do it. And found she had this amazing experience, energetic experience, where she went from pain, sorrow, suffering, anger, into just pure love. And she expressed love and forgiveness to this individual who really did tremendous damage. And, unfortunately, it's easier said than done. But if you want an example of demonstrating what the power of love can do, she did it, And if you listen to the story, it's really deeply moving. Of course, I've seen Elie Wiesel speak, who was a Holocaust survivor. And he talks about that, what love enabled him to do after being released from Auschwitz and the concentration camps.
Wow. I had not heard that story before. I think it is amazing. And I do believe that forgiveness is really about you. And when we love somebody or hate somebody or do anything to them, I really do believe that we are literally doing that to ourselves. So there's a big component of that. Would you agree?
Yeah. So if you're bitterly angry at someone, guess what? The only person that it's affecting is you.
Yeah.
It's like, what's her name? Joyce Myers, the evangelical minister, talks about that. She says, if you don't forgive someone, you're the one drinking the poison, not them.
Yeah. So true. Wow. So that's amazing. So after you come back and you've had this life review, was there anything in particular that stood out the most in your life review?
That stood out the most, how angry I was.
Angry you were. And
Yeah. I mean,
did you know
well,
immediately you need to change that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the other Zen saying that I've said for years is you cannot change what you don't recognize. And if you're not aware of how angry you are, or how bitter you are, or how resentful you are, you're not going to change.
And you said that there were the 14 angels that were with you. Were they surrounding you while you were having this
No,
life review?
there were 7 angels. They were probably about 12 to 14 feet tall each.
And were those angels surrounding you while you were having the life review?
Yes.
And were they judging you?
No, no. See, in heaven, there's no judgment. I mean, this is the most convoluted, twisted thing that the church preaches. They tell you God is love. And George Carlin talked about this back in the whatever it was, the 80s. God is love and loves you and is love, but he's going to cast you into the pits of hell for an eternity. Even though God gives you free will to do whatever it is that you want to do, but you're going to turn around and be punished. I mean, it's absurd. It's insanity.
Yeah. Yes, I'm right there with you. Okay, so let's move on to what happens after. So you come back, you're now this new incarnate, and you're having this, and you're meant to bring in this sound healing. So how do you get started with that? Because you're only 16 when all this happens.
Yeah, there's a lot, a lot that transpired. So, the first thing that happened is the walk-in made me more psychic than I already was.
And you embraced it this time, it sounds like.
No. Well,
Okay, so explain that because I get it, but yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I shortly after the whole experience, I was in Door County in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin,
Mhm.
with my other childhood friend Peter. And I don't know, one night I went to Peter's mom and I was like, "Hey, you got to call your daughter and tell her that she can't be here. Tell her not to come. It's just she just can't be here right now." And they thought I was crazy, like, "What are you talking about? She's getting married. We're meeting, this is a family thing." And Peter's mom was like, "I realize you see us fighting. I know that's weird for you because we normally don't fight, but it's okay. Just," and I was like, so the next day, I'm like, "Call your daughter now. Tell her not to come." Well, they got really distraught with me and they put me on the Greyhound bus next morning back to Iowa. And unfortunately, her daughter was killed in the car accident on the way up. And so again, I was like, this is crap. I don't want to do this. I did what you told me to do. And she ends up dying. So I didn't really drink anymore, but I think I smoked marijuana, hash, something, cents a million, whatever, for about every day for about from 16, 17, 18. And then Toby, my other best friend, Toby, his mom, Patty Lou, she started introducing me to a whole bunch of different things. She introduced me to Dick Sutphin, who I consider as my mentor. He wrote the book "You Were Born Again to Be Together," which is about past lives, karma, and reincarnation. And then she introduced me to Jerry Bowman and Joe Albiani. No one's probably heard of these two guys, but you probably heard of Shirley MacLaine.
Yes.
Shirley MacLaine's channel at the time when she was kind of really famous and out there was Kevin Ryerson. And Kevin Ryerson channeled John the Apostle.
Mhm.
And so Jerry Bowman was a Vietnam veteran. He was a trance channel, and he was channeling John, as in what Kevin Ryerson was who Kevin Ryerson was also channeling. Jerry Bowman was kind of his associate, an attorney out of Boston, and they did the Out of the Ordinary show in KIEV in Los Angeles, California. I want to say that Patty Lou probably introduced me to that probably when I was like 16 or 17. And I found as listening to Jerry go into a trance state and allow John to speak through him, I found John started to come to me and started speaking to me, not in a trance fashion, but almost like directly, like you and I are having a conversation now. And he would say things like, "We never use the truth to be right. We never use the truth to make others wrong. We never use the truth to score points for ego. We never use the truth to belittle others." And he would say something like, the kingdom of God is within you. Why do you seek anything else? A master is not called a master because he himself says so. A master is called master because those who witness him say that he is a master. Well,
Mm.
30 some years later, you kind of wish you would have listened a little bit more to what he was trying to tell you. But, when you're 17, 18, 19, there's too many blondes, too many brunettes. There's college football, there's nature boy Ric Flair. Woo! I mean, all the things that teenage boys love, And so, yeah, I received a lot of, both him and Lazarus downloaded a lot of information to me from the time I was 18 to 25.
Did you
And
write it down?
I still have it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it seems like you have a really good memory. I can just tell just in talking to you.
some people say I have a photographic memory.
Mm.
So yeah, then shortly after that, I think around 1992, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm going to get to the sound here in just a second.
Oh yeah, no, keep going. I'm really enjoying this.
So in 1992, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I worked at 82 Queen. My background in between doing conferences and expos is restaurant hospitality work. And I was a fine dining server there. And at the time, the videotapes with Drunvalo Melchizedek about the pyramids, the Sphinx, all that was a bootleg of a bootleg. And a friend of mine, Rosemary Swanson, had a set of the tapes, and I'm watching them. And so I also, at the same time, I was reading the book Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, who's channeled by the Pleiadians. So
Hmm.
Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak and these Flower Light tapes were the only thing that really spoke truth to me, that made sense, that put all the puzzle pieces together. And this guy comes into our restaurant, 82 Queen, and every night for, I was like 5 or 6 nights in a row. And even though I was in a different section, 82 Queen's got like 11, 12 dining areas. It's still there down in Charleston. And every night he ends up in my section. And the last night he's there, I'm hearing this angelic voice. It's a female saying, "We need you to talk to him." And they're pointing to him. I didn't know what his name was at the time. And "We need you to talk to him about the videotapes you're watching. Please do this." And I'm just like, I mean, in waiters' terms, I'm in the weeds. I've got 6 or 7 tables. We have an hour and a half wait. And I'm just like, no. So I go to leave from the table. I get physically pushed back by an unseen force. And they're like, "No, we really need you to do this." And I'm looking at him and I go, what the hell am I going to ask this guy? Right. So I go, "Are you a mathematics professor?" His name is Roger. So Roger looks at me and goes, "Mark, what did you really want to ask me?"
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like game on. And I go, "Well, I'm watching these videotapes about sacred geometry, the pyramid, the Sphinx." He goes, "Drunvalo Melchizedek, you have those videotapes?" "I have to have those videotapes." I'm like, "Well, they're not mine. I'll call Rosemary tomorrow and see if I can give them to you." "Yes, I need you to call her. Please, I have to have those videotapes." So I call Rosemary the next day. She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Hey, this guy's adamant that he has to have these videotapes." So she says, "Yeah, go ahead and give them to him." So a few days later, I meet Roger and his son, Sean, who's also around my age. And I give him the videotapes and I don't hear anything from him. In fact, I don't think I'm ever going to hear from this guy again. 3 months pass, 3 or 4 months pass. I go to work one morning and the angels come back to me and they go, "We need you to go to your manager and tell her that you have to go home." I'm just like, I just got to work. You know, they're expecting me to work. It's like, I don't know what planet you live on, but it's like, so now they go, "No, please just do this." So I go, Missy, her name was Melissa Miller, Missy Miller. She went by Missy. And I go, "I just not feeling well. Is it okay if I go home?" She goes, "Yeah, we're probably going to be slow today. Go ahead and go home." The angels come back to me and they go, "Hey, we need you to go directly to your place. Please do not stop anywhere on the way." Okay. So I'm walking, it's a good 20-minute walk from 82 Queen to where I lived in Charleston at the time. So as I open the door, Lori, the phone rings. It's Roger calling me from France. And he says, "Hey, how would you like to work with Drunvalo Melchizedek in person?" I'm like, "Of course I do." It's like, hell yeah. It's like, yeah. "What do I need to do? Where is it at?" He goes, "All you have to do is show up. Everything's been paid for. Thank you for the videotapes."
What? And where do you have to go to show up?
And it was in Cope Crest, Georgia. It's kind of not too far away from where I'm at now. It's on the Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina border and up here in the Smoky Mountains, the Blue Mountain Range. And so I got to spend 10 days with Drunvalo when he was actually still teaching the Flower Life workshops. And they were like 10, 12, sometimes 14-hour days. But, and I've told people this for years, and I think Wayne Dyer said the same thing many, many years ago, that life was never meant to be a struggle. what happens is that we struggle with who we really are because we resist everything, and then life just becomes a reflection of our resistance to who we really are.
So you're
And
saying that the least resistance you're experiencing in your life, the better chance that you're on the path you're meant to be on?
right, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
So I mean, I've said this for years. I've talked about this when I talk about my near-death experience and hell and heaven and all that stuff. So the Gnostic Christians defined hell as the distance that one placed themselves between themselves and God, right? So the word sin, what Christians use as sin, is they'll say that sin means to miss the mark. Well, the much older meaning of sin, which would be more accurate for Jesus or Yeshua, would be to be without. So the church did this really strange dichotomy, which is the greatest lie ever told, that you are born in sin, meaning that you are born without God. And only Jesus was born without sin. Only Jesus was born with God. Are you following this?
I am.
All right. So then it's said that when he was placed on the cross, and this story has been told by civilizations much older than Christianity, Diocesan, Horus, especially Horus. This is the story of the crucifixion identical to the story of Horus. So it's said that when Jesus was placed on the cross, he went to the depths of hell and he abolished sin. In other words, he went to the greatest place of least resistance and removed the illusion that he was separate from God and abolished that illusion to, quote, create the miracle of the resurrection. So he went to the depths of his separation from God and abolished it because he went to the place of least resistance. He surrendered to the moment. Most of us view surrendering as weakness, surrendering as a great strength. So hell was a village outside of Jerusalem where they burned garbage, and if you couldn't afford a proper burial, you were placed in a shallow grave in hell where animals could easily gnaw the flesh. And we know that in 553 AD, karma and reincarnation were removed from the Christian Bible at the Second Council of Constantinople. And then we know that in 320 AD, by Roman Emperor Justine, there are about 14 to 20 books removed from the Bible, including the Book of Truth, the Book of Mary, the Book of even Judas. And they were all those books that were removed from the Bible placed the power of God within the individual, not the church.
Yep.
Again, these are historical facts. So, but another aspect of this is that, the original symbol for Jesus was a dolphin, the fish.
Really? I've never heard that before. Well, fish I've heard, but not dolphin.
Well, so the Dogons are in the West Coast, the Ivory Coast of West Africa.
Okay.
They know more about the universe than anyone else. And since like the 1950s, we've sent countless physicists, astronomers over to talk to these guys because they know everything about the universe. They know constellations, stars, the rotations of the planet. They know everything with an amazing detail that they should have absolutely no way of knowing. And they have said for years that Jesus was a dolphin, that he came from the star system Sirius. And that's why the original symbol from Jesus was a fish, but not horizontal, but vertical, the walking fish. They're called nomos. And you'll find deceptions of the nomos all over the planet, but particularly over in England and in Wales. They're very well documented. The nomos, the walking fish. So then in 320, which correlates with what happened with Roman Emperor Justine, the symbol for Jesus became Chi Rho, or Christos, which is it's like the cross, but it has the one side of the ankh, like a P, it looks like an inverted backwards P. and that has the one line that goes this way and one line that goes that way, which represents the dimensions of consciousness that and you go back in to the loop of regenerating life force, which is what the Ankh is. And the cross didn't come until 420 AD as a symbol for Jesus.
I didn't know a lot of this. So were these things that you uncovered in that 10 days that you spent with that? Yes.
Well, he talks a lot about that stuff, but this is just stuff I've researched on my own because my dad was such a holy roller and Bible thumper. We got into some pretty intense debate. So his beliefs really got me to research religions and the origins of history and the origins of religions and how Christianity evolved. And brimstone and fire didn't come until the 16th century. The letter J didn't come until the 16th century. His actual name was Yeshua or Yeshua, which means yes, it's through God. Allah means it's to allow God. And I think at some point in time, we're going to realize that they're just Muhammad, Allah, and Jesus are just three different stories of the same individual.
Oh, interesting. So what do you think the purpose was of Yeshua coming into this earthly incarnation?
To show what's possible.
Yeah.
To show the word atonement means at one-ment.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed that if you knew that you're one with God, you could create greater miracles.
Yeah, because didn't he say that what I do, you will do more, you will do greater?
Yeah, it also says that, and this never changed, that you were created in God's image and God's likeness. Nothing ever changed about that. Although I do think now that passage is probably referring to the Anunnaki, the ones that created the humans that we call Homo sapiens now.
So let's go. I've heard a little bit about the Anunnaki. So they're tied very much to Egypt, correct?
Atlantis.
Atlantis first. Okay.
Lemuria, Atlantis, and then Egypt. Yeah.
Okay. So you said that you've been to Egypt a few times. So I'm curious, you're already very connected. What did you experience in Egypt that you can share with us?
Where do you want me to start?
Oh my gosh, I'm so fascinated with this. I know how much healing. So I guess what are the pyramids?
So yeah, I mean, when you see the pyramids on the Discovery Channel or History Channel, they look big, but when you see them right in front of you, they are enormous. So the pyramids were originally designed to be power generators for the planet. They use electromagnetic energy of the limestone and water to conduct energy, but not only for the planet here, but through other universes throughout the galaxy. They are perfectly aligned with the belt of Orion. The mathematics, they're the exact center of the planet. I mean, whoever it was,
mind-boggling, right?
It's mind-boggling, all the mathematics that are involved in the pyramids. They have found, and here's another mind-boggling thing, and this has been confirmed recently, that they have found that the stones on top are much older than the ones on bottom, which implies they were built from the top down. You cannot build them from the bottom up with that precise angle. They would have to be built from the top down. And there's the guy from, where was he from? Lithuania. He was like 5 feet tall on a good day down in Cape Coral, Florida. He built the Coral Castle. He would have
oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
He would tell semi drivers to pull up these big stones. He'd give them money, say, go have lunch. They would come back. All the stones were removed from the truck. They were like,
and he had no equipment.
No equipment, no crane, no anything. Yeah, right, exactly. He had some type of like flux. He had the original flux capacitor, right? So right. Yeah, so he's moving this stuff with sounds and magnetics, and that's what we believe how the pyramids were created, was with sound. And
so the sound, I've heard lots and lots of people talk about sound connected to the pyramids. Did that have any beginning in your healing journey with the sound, or were you already on that journey before you had your Egypt experiences?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I guess I got to go back a little bit. So 1995, 96, somewhere around there, I was still in Charleston, and I was with like we were up at Unity up on Leeds Avenue. It's still there. And we were in a Reiki group, a Reiki circle. And all of a sudden the tones started to come through me. These pure tones that sound like a singing bowl. And everyone would go, do that thing that you do. And it would just, the effect it had on people was so profound. And then around that time, I left Charleston to go to Iowa for the summer, and I was planning to come back to Charleston. And I got a phone call at 1:30 in the morning from a woman I never met. I never spoke with before. I don't know how she got her number, how she got my number. And she described everything that the beings told me when I crossed over about sound, about geometry, about the Melchizedek priesthood. She said I was a walk-in. But then she described my dream as a child being inside my bedroom closet over and over again.
How did you feel when all this was happening? Was your mind absolutely blown, or was this like your biggest confirmation of your life?
It was finally validation, because I didn't tell anyone about what happened to me that night. No how, no way. I think my best friend Dean, who was a chiropractor and acupuncturist, I told him, and I told the girl I was dating in Charleston at the time, and that was it. I didn't say a word to anyone. And in fact, there was I want to say about 15 years ago, there was a documentary on it was either Discover or History Channel about people that had near-death experiences. They interviewed 10 women. They interviewed 10 men. All 10 men didn't tell anyone until almost 10 years after it happened.
And every woman told somebody the next
Everyone
day.
did, right, exactly, right. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So that's when I started to. So it was about a year later. It was August 17th of 1997 that I did my first talk about my near-death experience and demonstrated the vocal toning. And after about 10 or 15 minutes, this is at the Mastery and Life Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I went to undergraduate and graduate school at New Mexico State University. And after about doing the tones for about 10 or 15 minutes, I had the voice come back to me and go, open your eyes. And there was 200 people, probably half of them were just out, just out with sound. And so that's kind of where the journey began with sound. But, the word universe means one song. The word person is persona. It's Greek for through sound. It is said that James Redfield in the book Celestine Prophecy talks about singing to plants to make them grow. This is what the Hopi and Anastasi taught. It is said that the elders would sing to crops and then produce kernels of corn the size of most men's thumbs. And it is said that the Hopi legend is that the grandmother Spider Woman sung the web of the universe into the existence. The Christian Bible says in the beginning was the word, in the beginning was the sound, the sound, the voice of God. But if you really want to understand why sound is so important to the planet, there's a guy by the name of Dan Carlson. He's a farmer in Wisconsin, and he became interested in sound technology, Rife technology, because his wife had cancer, and he found that what helped her the most was running sound waves and sound frequencies into her cancer. Well, this is what they do now with gallstones and kidney stones. Doctors run sound waves through a gallstone and kidney stone, breaks it up. This is what sound, a tumor is just a dense vibration. Everything is energy. It's just a dense vibration.
Yeah.
So you take cancer, you break it up, it goes away. Greg Braden has shown this on a video with 3 Qigong healers dissolving a golf ball sized tumor in 3 minutes. No radiation, no side effects. It's dissolved in 3 minutes. And so Dan Carlson became really fascinated with sound and frequency. So he found that when he ran a 4,000 to 5,000 hertz frequency through his crops, going back to what the Anastasi and Hopi taught, he produced a 400% greater yield. Not 30, not 40%, a 400% greater yield running the sound wave through the fields.
Why are we not utilizing this more right now then?
That's $1 million question, right? Well, I
Yeah.
could get into I can get into why, but that's not, all right. So then he discovered, this is why it's so important. He discovered that when birds sing in the morning,
Mhm.
they chirp at between 4 and 5,000 hertz. Birds are literally singing life into the planet every single morning. When crickets chirp at night, they're closing down at 2,000 cycles per second. They're literally closing everything down at night. Everything in nature is based on cycles, frequencies, harmonics.
So
That's,
aren't we destroying things? I mean, I remember hearing a long time ago that there were parts of Asia that didn't have birds anymore because they had allowed a fertilizer that's not allowed here and it had killed a lot of the birds. So do we have a complete unbalance in the planet right now from a sound perspective, in your opinion?
yeah, everything is distorted because unfortunately, everything is based on greed. Everything is based
Is this
on,
why we're getting sick? Is this why we have illnesses and experience disease states and things that didn't even exist years ago?
yeah, yeah, it's, and these things, they're not smart. They've made people really stupid. So, um,
Interesting. That's probably a much longer conversation.
right. But unfortunately, we all have them now. But again, technology is not a bad thing. It's how it's used. So there's some technology that's really beneficial. So there's other technology that is, and again, everything is about greed. I don't think we had inflation. I think we had greed. When you have like corporations like Exxon that have their highest margin of profit in decades, while gas was $4 and $5 a gallon. That's not inflation. That's greed. But I mean, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother show.
Right, right.
Let's go back to the sound healing. So for
Sure.
you, this is interesting because most people that I've encountered when I've had different sound healing experiences, they're using the bowls, they're using the gongs, they're using the different intonations and devices, tuning forks. You are using your natural given instrument, your voice. Where is this coming from?
So that I do use bowls. I do use tuning forks, but I also do incorporate my voice because the human voice is the most powerful tool that we have. It is, uh, um, like you listen to something like Pavarotti, and it just immediately puts you into a higher state of consciousness. In 2005, I was over in the UK. I was in Dublin, Ireland, and I was outside in downtown Dublin, and there was a soprano and an alto soprano singing. They were both from the Ukraine. It was absolutely the most angelic thing I've ever heard in my life. And there was about 30 or 40 people around us. And we immediately were like on our knees, just like in tears, because it was so moving. Your voice is so powerful. It's like, it is so what I do is the tones come through me. The Hawthorns, Tom Kenyon talks a lot about the Hawthorns. If you go to Dendara, it's and the Hawthorns are the of the goddess of music and joy.
Okay.
They have the really large elf ears, so they're the ones that come through me and produce the tones and the sounds. Unfortunately, with modern technology, when I go into the tones, the computer that we have shuts it out. But just
Right, because if the microphone is set to block out noises
right,
to just make your voice only heard, it blocks out that singing part.
right. So I literally become. I mean, I can feel myself leave Mark or leave, and these things come through the Hawthorns or the Syrians, whoever's working with me, and you can feel that it's coming through me. And also, I can hold tones. Once I get into it, I can hold tones from a really long time. So it's really amazing. We've
So what
seen
do
it.
you use it to do? What do you do with people? You work directly with people and help with healing different things?
So yeah, the thing that we've seen over and over again, and it doesn't matter if I have 4 people in front of me or 400 people in front of me, that sound, that tone has its own consciousness. It is very much aware, and it'll go to each individual person's greatest point of pain. So if person A has pain in their hip, the person next to them has pain in their back, person behind them has pain in their arm, that tone will go to each individual person's greatest point of pain and break it up. And again, it doesn't matter if there's 4 people in the room or 400 people in the room. What that tone does, because your mind shuts everything off and it focuses on that tone, you completely let go. You surrender to that tone. So what happens is that it clears your energy field. What happens when people go to bed at night, they carry all this stuff, the stress, the arguments, the job, and they wonder why we're addicted to insomnia pills and we take all these pills to make us go to sleep. It's because you're carrying all this crap in your energy field before you go to bed at night. What that tone does is it clears everything out so you can relax and let go. Sleeping is about letting go. If you have a hard time letting go, you're not going to sleep. It is your ability to let go and trust that you're safe. You're going to be okay. So before I left Sedona in 2016, after living there for many years.
Oh, I didn't know that. I live 90 minutes from Sedona. Sedona is the biggest reason that I moved to Arizona.
Yeah, beautiful place. There was a company called Brain States, and they used a $40,000 computer program called Neurom Magic. And they showed that my tones somehow will put everyone's brain waves in the correct ratio for peak and optimum performance. Delta waves, beta waves, gamma waves, alpha waves. They put them in the correct ratio for optimum human performance, alleviates depression, helps people sleep better at night. And we did that test, and every time we did it, it was like it produced the same thing, the right ratio of alpha, delta, beta, and theta waves, time and time again.
So were they listening to a recording? What were they doing?
We did it both. We did it with the CD that I have.
Mm-hmm.
We did it with live, and it was the same result every time.
So obviously not everybody can come to work with you where you are. How can people connect and get this type of healing through whatever modality would work where they are?
Well, since everything is digital now,
yeah,
I don't really have CDs anymore, but I do have audio files that people can. I think I sell them for like $20-$25, and they can.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, my website is sure. It's Mark MRK Patterson PATTERSON.com. If you don't include the dash, you're going to get a famous jeweler out of New York City.
Okay. Yeah. So people can connect. Does the healing work on animals also, or only on people?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, animals have a really hard time with the sound.
Really?
It's too high from them. And that's why I tell people, you can't bring your pet over because your pet's going to run around and hide because it can't handle even like with a bull, you do a bull, as soon as a cat or a dog hears that bull, they don't like it.
It's too much for them. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to put the information in the show notes. I want to go back to that woman who called you out of the blue at 1:30 in the morning. Is she part of your soul group? Is that who she was?
Yeah, we tend to incarnate with about 20 or 30 people. It's called our soul family. Yeah, she and I are definitely psychically connected. Unfortunately, I think the last I heard from her was in 1999.
Long time ago.
Yeah, we connected in 97 up at the Four Corners Monument.
So we coordinate with only a few soulmates in this lifetime. A lot of them, I believe, stay on the other side and don't incarnate. How many would you say that you've actually encountered during your lifetime? Uncovered.
So when you talk about soulmates, are you talking about in a romantic
soul families? I'm talking about your soul family, like those. Like I get that. I also agree with that we have a very small number of souls that we are so close with. We have traveled for millennia together. We are just like the closest soulmates, but I don't think that they all incarnate at the same time. Have you uncovered or encountered more than just that one woman.
Well, I would argue that people who are in your soul family, those 20 to 30, are probably like your aunts, uncles, your cousins, or like, like I go back to Iowa every now and then, and it just seems like anytime I go back to Iowa, I always, always, always run into people that I grew up with, like a handful of them. It's always the same 3 or 4 individuals that you always run into. Those people, I think, that are part of your soul family, and they are like, they're there to say, hey, we're in this together. They help you remember that. So then you'll also have this concept, and I talk about this a lot, is that you can also have parallel lives while you're here on the planet. You can incarnate, your soul can incarnate into 2 or 3 different individuals at the same time. Now, I've been told in my dreams for many, many years now that Sammy Hagar, the rock star, is one of my parallel lives.
Interesting.
I've never met Sammy. We do have a mutual friend, which is really strange. I've never met him. I've never said, hey, Sammy, yo, hey, they're telling me this, let's get together. I've never done that. I probably never will. But I mean, it's a very direct message, and I do know, it's my understanding that Sammy does believe in ETs and extraterrestrials. In fact, I think the song "When Love Comes Walking In" is about an
Yes,
encounter.
that's actually one of my favorite songs. It's on a very specific playlist I have.
And I've listened to him because I've been told that for like the last 10 or 15 years, whatever it may be. I do listen to him. I've listened to his interviews, and I kind of go, oh yeah, we kind of do think alike. We do kind of share the, same ideas and things like that. But again,
well, no, I agree with you, because one of the things that I was shown, didn't have a near-death experience, but I have had these 18 very profound out-of-body experiences where I've experienced my soul on the other side. And one of the things I was shown in one of those experiences was that, now it's different for everybody, but for me personally, that the amount of my higher self, my oversoul that I brought into this body would be the equivalent of like my pinky finger. I mean, that's how powerful we are. And I think that
right.
different souls with different purposes bring in different amounts of that oversoul or that higher self in. And it's completely conceivable to me that we could have multiple, not even just 2, multiple incarnations, because we are that powerful.
Right, because you could have, I've talked about this for many, many years, that you could have 40 or 50 people say that they were Cleopatra in a past life. Are they all lying, or are they all telling the truth? Which one is it?
Or are they all part of the same soul having different incarnations right now? Remember,
Because your soul is energy, it's going to complete divide. It's always going to divide. It's going to keep dividing. So all 50 of them could say they were Cleopatra in a past life, and they're all going to be right.
yeah. So grateful for you for sharing your NDE story, because that's the whole reason we came together. But for me, the bigger part of it is learning all of these other things. You shared so many resources. So as I'm editing this video, I will be adding those in so people can find those resources. But I also want to make sure that people are connecting with you specifically if they want to do that. So how can people work with you, connect with you? And if they can't, then what else would you recommend that they do that would really help them if they can't work with you directly?
So I do sessions and consultations via Zoom. And I've said this, at first I didn't want to do sessions via Zoom. I was always mainly a one-on-one person. Then I started doing them, and if they weren't as effective as they are, I wouldn't offer them. I just wouldn't. So we've had tremendous results, just tremendous things happen via Zoom, because again, the idea that we're separate is an illusion. We're energetically connected. We are all one, so people get profound results via Zoom. They don't have to do it in person.
That's wonderful.
Right. So people can connect me that way. And I encourage people to do so, because, I've had so many breakthroughs the last year with people.
Can you give us like maybe 2 examples of breakthroughs that you thought were absolutely, or the people thought were absolutely incredible?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a woman that had a hard time conceiving a child. So no matter what drug she was on, what she did, they couldn't conceive a child. So we did a past life regression with her, and we found that like in the mid 1800s, she was forced to put up a baby at the doorstep of a Catholic church. So she had an unconscious belief that if I have a baby, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to have to give it up. So that becomes a subconscious, unconscious program that blocks your body, will do anything it can from letting you have a child again, because you are so unconsciously terrified of having a child, because it means that if you do have it, so she was, once we got that, cleared out and released, then she was able to conceive. Now, the other thing, what if we had a person that had problems losing weight, right? Common problem in America. Well, what if you had 3 lifetimes in a row where you were starved, where there was no food for you? It's the same thing. That subconscious, unconscious program tells you you're never going to have enough to eat. No matter what you eat, it's never going to be enough, because you believe at a soul level that you are starving. And again, that healing, that catharsis, that emotional release, then she was able to lose weight again.
Wow, those are amazing. So you've got your sound healing that you offer. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you would like people to know about?
Yeah, I can email them too if you want to put them on your website. I'm working on these things. They're called Mark Patterson's Universal Power Cards.
Mm.
And they're just like things like God believes in you, believe in yourself. The second coming is impossible because he never left. You are the answer. You are the way. And with the graphics and images, and so that's kind of what I'm working on next. And then we're getting ready to launch a new inspirational podcast. Unfortunately, because of my dad, I've really have refrained from being a quote minister, but that seems to be my calling. I remember like when I was in 8th grade, I took one of those what do they call them, aptitude tests or
Yeah, yeah.
the vocational test, and it came out that I should be a minister. So
Oh, interesting.
it'll be I don't I say a spiritual facilitator,
Okay.
and so we're going to work on a weekly podcast around that, because I just think we have to change the diagram, this analysis that there's this God judging you and that you're going to go to hell, that you are a sinner. It's crap. You are born to win, conditioned to lose. You're meant to be good. You are good. You are an amazing individual. You're a wonderful human being with so much to share. And it's like we can't play small anymore. Too much is at stake. So when people want to know what's happening on the planet, and this is really why this is why, and I tell people this for the last 5 or 7 years, there are countless millions and millions of beings that are lined up to incarnate on Earth. Like, my God, why? It's like there's war here, there's this going on. Because as we evolve and as we go through this higher dimensional transition, what's going to happen is that once this happens, I think it's imminent, that is going to create a domino effect, a chain reaction, where not only we awaken to higher dimensional realities, it'll set off thousands and thousands of galaxies throughout the universe. And all of a sudden, just like that, it'll be simultaneously. Again, the guy that just won the Nobel Peace Prize, he won it for entanglement. Shown that everything is connected. There is no separation between you and the most distant galaxy. It's all connected. It's all right here, right now. And it's not that we are ascending into Earth. We are allowing heaven, or we're not ascending to heaven. We are allowing heaven to come back here.
Wow. All right. I have one final question I have to ask you then, because you tied everything back in. I've heard a lot of people, a lot of channelers, a lot of light workers, a lot of people talking about how in the next 3-4 years, and it could even happen in 2024, that there is going to be an event that will let everybody on the planet know that we are not alone, that there are other beings out there. You obviously have been experiencing this since you were a little kid, and I think that you're connected. So can you speak to that for just a moment? And I'd love to just hear your thoughts about that.
2025, 2026 is when there'll be full disclosure. But so this is what's happening. I'm also involved in, it's called GERT, Galactic Envoy Response Team.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be like this quote staged event where they fly over the White House and land. I think the aliens.
Although that would be interesting.
It'll be interesting, and that may happen. So this is what we think is happening, because I think the aliens are too smart to allow that to happen. That just sounds really dumb. So what's happening is that people like you and I, and this is starting to happen. There are pockets of groups of all over the planet going on right now, and all of a sudden they're receiving visitations on a mass scale from the Andromedans, the Syrians, the Pleiadians, Hathors, the Argothans. They're communicating with people, and so full disclosure will be done from within.
Interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
That's what's unfolding right now. And there's pockets of people all over the planet that are doing this right now, and it's happening. So yeah, full disclosure is going to come from within.
Wow.
And then
makes sense.
So once that, because it's as above, so below, as within, so without. So once enough people have contact, which is going to take place over the next couple of years, and then they will be revealed. You won't. Everyone will see it. It won't just be some of us. Everyone will see it. It'll be undeniable.
Wow. I'm looking
and the other
forward
thing I want to, along those lines, because I know that people are in fear right now.
Yeah.
I know the planet is chaos, but there's a lot of good things that are happening that people just don't know about it. And they're, even from NASA, our own government, they've shown videos of this where ETs or aliens will fly over a nuclear silo and they'll turn it off like that.
Yep, I've heard that as well.
That I don't think they want us to press buttons anymore. I think the whole frequency of war is dying on the planet. That's why the first time in history that we know of, what's happening in Russia and Ukraine right now, hundreds of thousands of Russian troops are leaving. They're not participating in war anymore because it doesn't serve and support the planet anymore. And we have never seen that. Never.
Yeah. Well, it's energy. It's an energy and an energetic shift, which is just amazing.
Right.
Mark, I think I could talk to you for about 10 more hours because these are really the topics that feed my soul, the things I'm so curious about. Mark, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
If I can help anyone out there, just please feel free to contact me.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. Thanks everybody for watching.
Right. Thank you. Have a good day.